I am comedian Michael Halcomb. This is Messed Up the Setups. I am back with comedian Drew Davis.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.
Drew, it's good to have you back.
Great to be back.
We never really left. But,
yeah, we never signed off from the last episode, but I'm all about creating the illusion. Man, I've missed you so much. From the moment we stopped the last recording, I've just been anxiously awaiting this time.
So yes, I want to show you guys again, DrewDavisComedy.com. All kinds of good stuff here.
That is such an old picture of me, by the way. That is back when I thought putting my social media on a black t-shirt was a good idea. And if anyone's getting into comedy and you're wondering if that's a good idea, let me go ahead and save you the no, it's not. But
you guys part of the Clean Comedy Collective, which you founded or did you found that or co-found that?
I founded it with three other comedians. Is it if there's multiple, does that mean you co-founded it, or can you say you're all founders? I don't know. But yeah, I was definitely the person that started it, but I started it with some friends, so I don't want to take all the credit. I do feel like I put in a lot of time, so I can still say I'm one of the main people there, though. So,
right,
yeah,
that's awesome. So all kinds of good stuff here. You can go see the shows that he's got coming up or that he's been part of.
Yeah.
And, you had the videos, lots of video clips on here. Shorter ones to longer ones.
A
couple specials, so you can watch those as well.
I break it down based off of people's attention spans. Sometimes I'm in a 5-minute video mood. Sometimes I'm in a 30-minute. I don't.
Right. So that's good stuff. And he's on all the socials, so go follow him on there. But what we're gonna do in this episode of the podcast is we are going to begin by just having Drew share a joke with us that he's come up with, or however you want to do that. Get us into joke territory. And then after we've sort of finished doing that, we're going to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes just trying to come up with jokes on the spot. So, where do you want to take us? You got a joke you want to share with us, or?
I was gonna. I don't know how many episodes in. I want to say I'm gonna do this a little bit differently. I don't know how many episodes you have, so maybe.
You're number 2 on as far as guests go on the podcast.
Okay, so this may be different than what people do eventually. Instead of just giving one joke. Michael, I also teach comedy, and so a lot of students, when they get into it, they want to take their funny stories or funny instances and turn that into stand-up routines, which is great because your stories are like your thing. Like no one else is going to have your stories. But in the world of stand-up, the most important thing for whatever you say is you have to have a punchline. Every joke has to have a punchline. So a lot of times what people don't realize when they tell stories is you need punchlines in your stories. So I'm actually going to tell you guys about my ending bit that I do. I'm not going to do the whole bit. It's online if you want to check it out. But the joke is centered around the true story where 12 years ago, I took a date to go see Adam Devine, a comedian, Zanies. And the end of the date, she went home with Adam Devine.
All right, before we get into that, let me just say, this is hilarious. Just the whole...
Right, absolutely
hilarious. Now, I got 2 things I want to say, actually.
Okay.
I've had a joke floating around in my mind for years. So, dude, this is 100% true story. When I was a senior in high school, I took my pastor's daughter, who was in my grade all the way through school. She was a senior too. I took her to prom, and we left prom early, ended the night early. All my friends were staying, going out, or whatever. And I took her home only to get a call from my friend like an hour after the fact. Hey, dude, why is your prom date out with your youth pastor in the backseat of his car?
That's so uncomfortable.
Dude, it's a true story. My pastor's daughter, my prom date, ended up in the backseat of my youth pastor's car, and the dude was married with 2 kids.
There's a lot of he's doing a lot of wrong things there.
Shortly after, he got to divorce his wife, and He was a high school teacher too.
Oh,
So I mean,
ugh.
youth pastor. Anyways, that
And
reminds me.
statistically, she's not. It wasn't like he found his true love with your prom date. Statistically, she was one of many,
Dude.
which is
So
so dissettling.
it is. And then the other thing I wanted to say is not to cut off your joke, but throughout my first year in comedy, like you've actually helped me. What I think 3 times
Yeah.
we've got online. You mentioned that you teach comedy students, so that's another great thing. If you're looking for someone to help you write jokes, you can tap Drew for that. I'm also interested in that kind of thing, but Drew's really good, and I'd highly recommend that, man. It's been helpful to me. I think before my first show, I had found you, and we ran through some jokes together, and that gave me some good confidence. That
Yeah,
to get
I
on
mean
stage.
it help. The thing about stand up comedy is, to a degree, it's a solo sport. When you're up on stage, it is just you, and at the end
Right.
of the day, it is just you putting together the jokes and saying them and making them your own. But like, it doesn't have to be just you. Like, getting help from more seasoned comics, getting
Yeah.
having like things like this where you're just getting together and you're talking jokes and you're working together. Like, there's a lot more community that can be found in comedy that will make it better. So many, and we talked about this in your last episode because we share a ministry background, and so many
Yeah.
pastors get burned out from the loneliness of ministry. But what I've noticed is so many comedians get burned out from the
Mhm.
loneliness of comedy. But
Right.
it doesn't have to be that way. And so that's one of the things. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about how to do comedy, how to tell jokes, even if you're a comedian wanting to get help with stuff, I run a brand called the Quarter Mile Entertainment, and part of that is working with comedians. A big part of that, like probably the biggest part of that, is working with comedians.
Awesome. So back to
So
Adam Devine.
yeah, so I remember how this joke, and now it's like probably one of my best routines. It's probably if I have a long routine, it's going to be how I end my set for the night or whatever. It's something I'm very comfortable with, and it is a very funny story that I tell the audience. But it started with, after an open mic one night, I was telling my friends, I don't remember we were just talking about bad first dates or whatever. And I already knew from the minute the conversation started, I was like, I'm going to win. It shouldn't be a competition, but I'm going to win this. And so I waited for them all to share their bad first dates. And then, I shared my bad first date, and they were all comedians. And one of them was like, why don't you ever talk about that on stage? And I was like, I don't know. So that very next day, for the next week, for a while, I started making that a routine that I was doing on stage. And whenever you tell a story on stage, at the very beginning, usually you notice there's a lot of dead air. You start noticing you got to cut out a lot of stuff. And you also start thinking, like, I need to put in a lot of things as well. Because when we tell jokes, it doesn't absolutely have to be this way. But typically, you're wanting to get a setup and a punchline. Every other sentence, you're hoping for a laugh. And if it goes longer than that, so either your sentence is building up tension or it's getting a laugh. And the more sentences that, like, the more you go without building or laughs, is the more tension you're building. Right. And so what often happens when we tell our story in a stand-up setting, if we haven't fine-tuned it yet, we have that one big laugh moment at the end, which is the whole reason you want to tell the story. And you just build tons of tension. And if you don't have any good punchlines in between, then your last moment just doesn't pay up for all the tension you built. Right. So when I tell my Adam Devine comedy routine now, I embellish that story so much. It has been because I remember I knew it was gonna be the closer for my second special. So for the longest time, I was like working on that bit everywhere I could. I would be throwing in different punchlines, throwing in different ideas of, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? Or I would have like so much, like there's one joke I talk about, I feel like we're kind of showing them how the meat's made. And I hope when you hear it, it's still as funny if someone listens to it. Yeah. But like, there's like so many sentences that I put into the bit now that didn't actually happen. Right. So like I have a bit where I talk about how, kids in Sunday school came in and they referenced that they saw the righteous gemstones. And one kid was like, yeah, he'd actually be a better youth pastor than you. And, I have a joke about that where I kicked him out of church, and, that actually didn't happen, but it fits. And it gets me a little bit laugh. It gets me a little bit closer to the end with a break of laughter for the audience. I have a different joke in that bit where, I reference how I used to be a big fan of superheroes, and then the Flash was my favorite superhero, but the Reverse Flash was his arch enemy. And I parallel myself and Adam Devine to the Flash and the Reverse Flash. And at the end, I side with the villain of the superhero story. And that gets a laugh from people. But then one time I told that bit, a different comic who's just as big of a nerd as I am came up to me after the show and said, "Did you know that Adam Devine voices the Flash in Lego Batman?" And that was such a fun random fact that I was able to turn into another joke to put in that story. So I started with what the real story was, which is like in conversation funny, you know?
Right.
But when you're on stage, doesn't have enough punchlines to be like what's going to keep the audience's attention.
Right.
So then I started the process of adding funny things in the story. And a truth that I learned in a storytelling class in college is never let the truth stop you from telling a good story. All right. Yeah. And it's true for comedy. I tell my students, never let the truth stop you from telling a good joke. Because just like when we go to a magic show, it's not like when we go to a magic show where like we believe that all this mysticism is real and that magic is, we know it's a trick. We're ready to be entertained. And audiences are the same way. I think the only time we shouldn't be okay with white lies and jokes is when it's at someone else's expense. When there was a comic that got in a lot of trouble a while back because he had some very funny jokes, but he like legit name dropped an ex-girlfriend or someone, like a real person, instead of like changing the name or altering it or whatever, just full name. And then this person just got like bullied online and social media and all this stuff. Then it if people found out later, none of this stuff actually happened. It was just a joke, but she was an ex-girlfriend. And so that really made him look bad because he basically just made up tons of bad stuff about a person and no one knew it was, but so if the stuff isn't really just tearing someone apart, and even in my joke about Adam Devine, I'm not bad mouthing Adam Devine in a way that like decharacterizing him. I have the truth, and then I keep kind of bringing it back to myself as the comedian. So I guess that's what I hope that's not, I can give you a shorter joke and be like, this is what it was and this is what it became if you want. But I'm really just for talking stories in comedy. I think it's great, but you just always need to be intentional, put in punchlines in your stories. And if you have to embellish or make something up to get us there, then that's okay too.
Right. Yeah, I think like what I see more than anything is people get up, you get the mic in their hand, and it's just ideas like, sometimes an idea, not even a premise. When I say premise, I'm using that like, a negative opinion about a topic. So you have a topic and then a premise, which is a negative opinion about that topic. And that premise should ideally, right, like give you a setup.
It should get you started. The topic is buffalo wings. The premise is boneless wings are way better than traditional wings. And then from there is when you start coming up with the jokes and the punchlines. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I find, like, way more than not is that people who haven't, I don't know, had a course or studied language or something like that, they lack the joke writing structure. And so they have a potentially funny idea, but no joke structure, therefore no setup punch. And when you hear these stories, the stories might be funny, but again, there's no setups and punches within. But I see that so often. No, I think that's beneficial. I teach. One of the changes that's happened for me in the last year, I've become a full-time college professor, and in my Comp 1 and 2 classes, particularly my Comp 1 class, I get all these freshmen, right, and this writing class, so I'm teaching them how to write jokes, which has been awesome for me. Once you teach something, you're learning it a second time, and you get better at it. And, teaching them actual joke structure. And so they get up 3 times in the semester and they get to do stand-up comedy from original jokes, which is really cool. But having that joke structure makes all the difference in the world. Jerry Corley talks, he's another comedian. He teaches a lot of online classes, but he references George Carlin a lot, who talked about, he said something to the effect of like, I knew a joke had like an 80 to 90% chance of working before I ever tried it on stage, simply because it had structure.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
That is, in my own experience, that reality is like played itself out for sure. But, well, let's, talking about jokes, let's, see if we can come up with some. So we saw DrewDavis.com earlier. Another great website is just my own website. Not trying to do self promotion here, but a lot of good
You
stuff
should
on
absolutely be doing self promotion. This is your podcast. This is where people are
Well,
going to learn about you and then go
you
check
know,
you
I,
out.
I
I'll do
want, I want,
yourself. Everyone, go check out Michael Halcomb right now. Stop what you're
yeah,
doing and pull the car over and check out his website, which also
right.
looks very awesome.
Thank you, man. MichaelHalcomb.Live, and I post on here daily. So all kinds of good content on here. You can find all my social links here, but under the social tab on the right side of the screen, there's at the very bottom it says joke writing exercises. So if you click that, it's gonna take you to a different site I've made. And if you're watching, you should be able to see this on your screen. And I'm updating this, so I have about 7 more updates ready to go. I'm gonna release those in future podcast episodes. But what you see if you go here right now are 2 columns. One says jokes from headlines, and the other says jokes from cliches,
Well, that's
and they're
fun.
timed, right? So when you're a comedian, you're gonna get stage time, and you got to work on a timer, right? And so we're just gonna, if I click joke headlines here, this dynamic news prompt generator that I've coded, created,
Oh, that's so
is
cool.
it pops up, and this is linked to a number of different sites. And if I hit generate prompt, it's linked to these sites, and it'll pull headlines from today's news, or
That's awesome.
news within the last 24 to 48 hours. So boom, there one goes. Who owns January 6th? That's a news headline. And so what you do here is, this is the 1 minute writing challenge. So down at the bottom, I hit start writing challenge, and you get a minute to just write jokes in this box. Once a
Yeah.
minute's up, it freezes. You can copy your content, but you can't write anymore. So we can keep generating prompts, right? How Canada's voters turned on Justin Trudeau. We can write about that. So, Drew, I'm gonna hit generate prompt again, and we'll just see. I'm gonna start the timer on us,
Yeah, we'll
and
see what gems we come up with.
we'll see what we come up with. So, here we go. All right, a timeline of Justin Trudeau's rise and fall. So, go for it. What do you what comes to mind?
I'll be sure. I have no idea who Justin Trudeau is. So
Prime Minister of
timeline of his
Canada.
fall from the minute he was born.
Oh, from the minute he was born. um,
Your turn.
all right, mine is, wait a minute. We probably shouldn't talk about his rise. Uh, that's a maybe inappropriate joke.
Right.
There. Yeah, timeline of Justin Trudeau's.
Mine is, he had a pretty good fall. September, he's a big fan of leaves dropping, so fall's his time, man.
Oh, fall's his time. Let's see, a timeline of Justin Trudeau's rise and fall. It, oddly enough, it parallels Canada's rise and fall.
Yep. It also parallels Timberlake's rise and fall, because nobody knows who Justin Trudeau is, but they always think it's Timberlake.
All right. Justin Timberlake, getting it too confused. Let's try another one here. U.S. Steel and Nippon sue Biden over block merger. I don't want to do. What will Trump do with all that power? Here we go. What will Trump do with all that power?
He's gonna spend more time golfing. That's what he's gonna more time. Yeah.
Golfing. More time grabbing blank.
Right. So yeah, more inappropriate microphone things.
More inappropriate microphone things. What will Trump do with all that power? Let's see. What will Trump do with all that power? Maybe work at McDonald's again?
Maybe. I think he's going to try to make January 6th a national holiday. Sponsored by, oh my goodness, the gun, the gun people. I forgot their name. NRA, yeah, thank you.
Sponsored by NRA. What will Trump do with all that power? All right. I was going to make a white power joke there.
Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
We don't know, but it'll involve the word white or something like that. So that's funny. In Haiti, gang massacres and journalist murders expose the country's fragility. Book review, Golden Years by James Chappell. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. UK Starmer. I don't even know what UK
No.
Starmer slams lies and misinformation after Elon Musk attacks. This is
Also
kind
known
of
as they turned on the news.
they turned. There you go. They turned on the news. Um, Elon Musk attacks, but with exploding Cybertruck. Let's see. Let's see. Cybertruck. Lies and misinformation. Lies and
Misinformation is his first contact with any female.
His first contact with any female. Lies and information. Also, the next title for Beyonce's album or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or Lies and Misinformation, title of Kamala's forthcoming book.
Yeah.
Something like that. Everybody's fair game. So this is kind of fun. I love doing this. And
I would love to. Is it cool if I share this with my stand-up class? Because one of the critiques they just gave me was like more joke writing exercises, and so
please do.
You're doing the homework for me right here. I love it.
Over the next month or so, I'll be dropping 7 more really cool writing exercises on here. Some of them, I think, is really going to surprise people, but it's really, I got some really cool updates. They're already done. I've created, I've tested it. It's just a matter of dropping it. So here's another fun thing, using cliche reformation to write jokes. So I built a random cliche generator based on like thousands of aphorisms or idioms, sayings, cliches that we have. And so, same thing. This is just a 1 minute writing challenge. We can generate these cliches and, try to quickly come up with a pun or a joke or whatever. So here's one: take your life in your own hands. Let's see what we can come up with.
And literally give it to anyone, any other hands, because it will be better.
Literally give it to any other hands. Take your life into your own hands, but take your spouse's life first.
Right. Okay. I like that. Take your life in your own hands after you wash them.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. After you wash them, make sure you wash them first. But only after you wash them. Only after you wash them. Take your life in your own hands. Wait. Just take your life.
Or alternatively, take your life in your own hands. Wait, don't take your life.
Well, there you go. Wait, don't take your life. Just, your hands. Wait, don't take your life. Take your life in your own hands. Or if you're part of the Taliban, take your hands.
You have to finish it. Or if you're part of the Taliban, what?
Or if you're part of the Taliban, just expect that they'll take your hands.
Yeah.
Something like that. So this
that's what I was thinking of with that one too. There's a pickup line there, like, you're so hot you could take my life in your hands. I don't know.
Oh, nice. You're so what you can do here, right, is you can take these and copy them and paste them somewhere and keep going. But shoestring budgets, name that tune, throw in the towel. There we go. Let's see. Be in the same boat. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's do that one. Keep your fingers crossed.
Is a very insensitive saying to Jesus.
is a very insensitive.
Or is very insensitive to Jesus. Is how it.
It's very insensitive to Jesus. Keep your fingers crossed. Unless you're a doctor who gives prostate exams.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Definitely. New workout slogan: keep your fingers CrossFit.
Oh, new workout slogan: keep your fingers CrossFit.
Yeah.
Nice. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's see. Keep your fingers crossed. Unless you're at the altar. That's not really that funny, but keep your fingers crossed. I always say, too, by the way, when I'm doing this kind of thing and like helping students do this, because I have these timed writes in my writing classes, the point isn't to come up with the best joke or best punch ever, right? It's just to come up with a joke.
It's like working out a muscle. The more you do this, the swifter things will come. And then also sometimes you write something that maybe it's not pure gold right off the bat, but it like will help you lead to something else.
Exactly. So lots of good stuff here. I mean, some of these things I haven't heard, but again, I have this database I've created of thousands of these sayings. This is a good thing for, like you said, students. And like I said, I got some great ones coming down the pipeline that are going to be really, really fun. Some roasting stuff that practice roasting and other things that I've created. So
love it.
Yeah, so please do share this. This has been fun, man. Appreciate you coming on and taking time out to do this.
Thanks for having me. This has been a really good time. I appreciate. And
Yeah.
What a cool resource. I'm absolutely going to share that with my class.
Yeah, please do. So again, for those of you watching or listening, check out DrewDavisComedy.com. Drew's available. He teaches. He does one-on-one. Can help you punch up some jokes. He's got a podcast.
I also have a Fast and Furious podcast. It's a Fast and Furious themed movie podcast. Our whole first season, we watched the 10 Fast and Furious movies and talked about them per episode. And now we're doing what we call Fast and Furious adjacent movies, which you can look more into the podcast to figure out what that means. I feel like more people listening to this podcast are like more into comedy and like cool things like that. But if you're a geek who just absolutely loves the Fast and Furious, man, check out my podcast.
Right on. Well, do that, y'all. And after you've spent a couple hours looking at all Drew's stuff, head over to MichaelHalcomb.Live and check that out too. For both of us, follow us on your favorite platform.
Absolutely.
Subscribe, share the stuff you like, and like the stuff you like, and all that stuff. It really helps us. So
you could even share the stuff you don't like. If you see it in my videos and you're like, "This is total trash," it helps in the algorithm for you to share it. And you could even say, "This is total trash," and maybe other people will agree with you. Either way, more people are watching my stuff. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, that YouTube algorithm, even if you get a dislike or a bad comment, it's still interaction, and that's what YouTube cares about. So they don't care if it's a dislike or a bad comment. At least that's what I've read and been told. So, but Drew, always good seeing you, man. Best to you on your all the great things you've got happening in 2025 within the realm of comedy. And hey, check out.
Thank you, and you too, by the way. You're doing a lot more out there, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. So check out Drew's shows coming up too. Maybe he'll be in your neck of the woods and you can go see him live. But all right, we're gonna wrap it up there and say we hope that helps.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just us.